Turning overseas, and more witnesses are expected to testify in the public hearings of the impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Mr. Trump has claimed not to have watched a single minute of the proceedings, but he has been tweeting very specific observations about the testimony. Joining us live is CNN reporter Whitney Wild. Whitney, appreciate your time. It appears we're seeing Democrats really sharpening their approach to this impeachment process. We're seeing more of a focus on bribery as an impeachable offence from Nancy Pelosi, for example. Take us through how the Democrats have been pursuing this line of attack so far.
Absolutely. So over the last really several weeks since they began this impeachment inquiry, the question has always been, well, what did he do? What is enumerated in the law that you think that he did? So now it seems that they're really drilling down on, as you said, bribery. Nancy Pelosi today characterizing that phone call between President Trump and the president of Ukraine as bribery. You had mentioned that there are more witnesses set to testify. They seem to get increasingly important as the days go on. Tomorrow we'll hear from Marie Yovanovitch. She was the ambassador to Ukraine who was recalled after she says a smear campaign was launched against her in Ukraine. Next week, we will hear from other very important witnesses. Notably, next Wednesday, we'll hear from Gordon Sondland. He's the ambassador to the European Union from the U.S. He is the one that Bill Taylor says spoke with President Trump and then later on told one of Bill Taylor's aides that President Trump cared more about the investigations into the Bidens that are at the center of all of this than anything else. Back to you.
We have seen the Republicans, of course, dismissing all of this testimony we're hearing as mere hearsay. What is the timeline now? Just how long do we expect this whole process is going to take?
So the latest timeline we have is that Democrats are hoping to have all of this wrapped up by the end of the year. That means that then we would have a trial in the Senate. That would begin sometime in January. That could last about 6 to 8 weeks. Notably, that runs right up into the very beginnings of the key votes in the Democratic 2020 presidential primary. So we have primaries and caucuses beginning in February and then leading into March. There are 5 or 6 candidates in the field who would have to leave the trail and instead sit in a trial in the Senate. So that would be particularly difficult timing for them. And it really becomes this convergence of politics here in Washington and throughout the rest of the country. Back to you.
Whitney, we're actually starting to see some live pictures coming in from Louisiana. I'm being told that's where President Trump is currently holding an election rally. We have seen some reports suggesting that President Trump's aides have been pleading with him to try and look more presidential while this impeachment inquiry plays out. Is he taking that advice? Is it working for him?
I think he does what he always does. He rails against the people that he thinks are really out to get him, and he appeals to the base. And you will certainly hear that at the rally tonight. You've heard it at other rallies in the past. The advice to him has been play it cool. He doesn't like to keep quiet on things that he genuinely seems to think are wrong. So he's going to be out there. He's probably going to be talking about it. He's been on Twitter, although he says he hasn't watched any of it and isn't really paying attention to it. His tweets would indicate otherwise. So it will be interesting to hear what he says tonight at the rally. Back to you.